Hey, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast, presented by DJ City. I'm your host, DJ Crooked. We got DJ Never.
Yo, what up?
We got DJ D Miles.
Good morning.
We got Jamie the Great.
Yep.
And we got a special guest, the owner, the founder of, I guess, one of the biggest DJ agencies, management companies in the country. He's our manager. He's a really, I guess, brilliant radio promotions guy for record labels and music and shit. Like, you do a lot of stuff, man. We got the very infamous Sujit Kundu here. And you do manage me, Neva, and D Miles. Obviously not Jamie the Great.
Yep.
And so we want to get you here and get your perspective on all things DJ related and music related. You got your hands also behind the radio promotions for a lot of big records. You've been responsible for certain records like Khaled.
Yeah.
With
Wild Thoughts.
Wild Thoughts.
And Unforgettable by French
And
Montana.
Unforgettable, French Montana, and stuff like that. And you have anything to say? I mean,
I'm the one, Khaled.
as well.
Yeah. And I think
So many.
And I think Move That Dope by Future as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to be here. Let's talk through it. Let's go. I mean, I don't have like opening speech.
Okay. What do you call it? By the way, this is the first time we've ever seen Sujit without a phone in his hand talking.
I know.
to us,
I
so-
don't think this
It's
interview
around.
gonna last too long.
Yeah.
I committed to doing this. I'm gonna do it all the way. I got you.
Okay. And you dragged us all out at 8 a.m. in the morning. This is the earliest podcast we've ever done.
Let's be clear. I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it on my terms. I feel like DJs are at 2 a.m., so we're gonna do it at my time.
So you
right?
wanted us to be like kind of a little lost and bewildered and stuff.
I just didn't want to be distracted. I feel like once the day gets going, like my mood could change depending on what's happening. And early in the day, you'll get like a clear, articulate me. Whereas in the middle of the day, I might be dealing with a fire. I might be dealing with something, and my mind might be distracted, and I might not be
Right.
all the way there.
Yeah.
So I felt like the morning would be easier for me.
Well, let's talk about even your routine, the way you work. You've been up since 3 a.m.
Right. So usually what I do is I go to sleep when I'm tired.
When is that? What time is that?
It depends. Like usually I'd say between 9 and 12. Like, I had like a third grade teacher that was like a jerk. And like one day this kid fell asleep in our class, and we thought he was going to drop the book or like bang something or like wake him up like crazy. Like, and he just let the kid sleep. And like after the class, we were like, yo, bro, like what happened? His buddy fell asleep and you didn't even like mess with him. And he was like, listen, he's like, if somebody's tired in my class, that means they might not be sleeping at home. So I might let them sleep in class, but then I'll deal with them later, right? So I've always been of the mindset of when I'm tired, I go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So whether that's 9, 10, 11, 12, or even 1, if it's time to sleep, I go to sleep. I don't push myself to work longer. And the opposite of that is I wake up when I'm ready to wake up. So unless I have a flight or something that is like urgent that I have to make sure, even if I have an 8 o'clock meeting, I probably won't set an alarm because I usually do get up between let's say 2 and 6. If I get up at 2, I'm annoyed and I'll try to sleep. So then I might sleep all the way till 6. But if I wake up at 3, 3:15, 3:30, I get up and that's it for the day. I'll stay up.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
So you were referencing the radio business.
Yeah.
And at 3 o'clock in the morning or at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's this system called Mediabase, which is how radio promoters monitor how much spins are going on and how much each radio station's playing or not playing a record. And at 3 a.m., from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., it goes off. There's a thing called real time where you can watch it in real time.
Yeah.
And from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., it's off. So, I'm sorry, from 12 to 3
a.m.,
it's
yeah.
off. And at 3, it goes back on. So, like, my body kind of knows at 3 it's back on, and I want to see what's happening.
So explain this, because I actually don't really understand or know anything about what you're doing behind the scenes with radio, pushing, like with radio and pushing records and getting spins and all of this stuff. And you've been doing this for a while now, a long time.
Right.
And you're like the best in the business, from what I've heard. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I mean,
But explain what you do. Like, explain what you do.
So, there's several different genres of music, right? So formats of radio, right? There'll be urban radio, which if you were in Los Angeles, that would be 92.3 The Real, right? Then you'd have Power 106, would be like a crossover radio station. And then you have like Top 40, which would be like KISS or AMP. and then maybe have hot AC or alternative and K-rock or whatever have you. So I do the rhythm crossover format, and there's maybe like 80 radio stations in the country, and artists or labels hire me to promote their records to radio stations. So say there's 50 artists a week trying to get their song on the radio, and there's one slot open for a new song because radio stations have a limited inventory. They can't play unlimited music, right? Whereas a Spotify, you could put 25,000 songs a week. They just keep putting them up and putting them up and putting them up. Right. Radio stations have inventory. There's only 24 hours in a day. Songs 2.5, 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, whatever it is. So they only got, once that slots are all full, that's all they have. So, there's lobbyists, I guess, like me that go and say, hey, Crooked's song is better than Jamie's or whatever have you. And so that's kind of what we do.
So you call up like 80 radio stations that you have?
Right.
You obviously have contacts now. They all know you.
Right.
So when you're pushing a record, they're trusting you? They're like, yo, we're going to push it on? Or they're just kind of like, you still got to sell to them?
No, you still have to sell to them. I mean, I think if someone, you get credibility. Yeah. So if I really vouch and I really push, I might get the benefit of the doubt if I have credibility. If you're doing the same thing as me and you don't have the same credibility, then maybe they might take my word more serious than yours. But I might not vouch 10 times out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. I might say, hey, I need a favor. Hey, I need this. Or like this artist has a good relationship with the radio station, support them. Like there could be 100 different reasons why they choose to or not to. But, we just try to figure it out. So
to get the spins that you want and to get the records played, it's a lot of diligence, right? It's calling. Well, yeah, like every day. You've got like 30 or 40 versions of me, and the radio stations are all trying to duck and hide from us because they know we're basically salesmen. Okay, this explains a lot. Okay, yeah, we're basically telemarketers, right? We're calling, and it's like it's the equivalent of me saying, "Hey, Crooked, I'm at the club and I want to hear Move That Dope," and you're like, ugh. And then D Miles comes up and he's like, "Yo, Crooked, I want to hear this," and you're like, "Bro, there's 20 of these guys annoying me to play the song, and I just want to play my set. I want to do my job." You know what I mean? And so that's you. You're just like relentlessly going at them. Yo, you got to play this. Right. I mean, and it could even be as easy as a lot of radio stations have DJs, or a lot of stations have like it could be if you could find goodwill in someone's assistant, they might go to bat behind closed doors and be like, hey, listen, I personally really like this song. You never know. That might be the winning edge over, I might have got the assistant aboard and he might have not got the assistant aboard. And then I might be that. There's a lot of different factors. And like he might have heard the song last night in the club and been like, yo, this one's a winner for me. Right. Or seen somebody perform, or you're like, hey, come check this artist perform. Like once you see it, you'll understand. And then they see it and they see 1,000 people cheer and they're like, oh shit, like that might be a work. So, like in the beginning, you would have worked for a record label and you would have pushed their records to radio, right? Well, for me, in the beginning, I was a club promoter. Yeah. Right? So I used to do raves and promoters. Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that, but I kind of want to touch on. But how it kind of evolved was for me was it went from club promotion to kind of like street teams. Because street teams and club promotion kind of went hand in hand. Right. And then it went from that to kind of mixed show promotion. And then just like my life kind of just went just kind of evolved. It wasn't really like a set plan or something. It just kind of like grew and just kind of like, I don't know, matriculated or what have you, and just kind of like evolved as the culture evolved and as time evolved. Yeah. So when someone says, you're instrumental in pushing this record or making this record successful, for example, let's say like a Tiger Taste or like an Unforgettable French Montana or Wild Thoughts, Khaled, Rihanna, what does that mean that you were instrumental? Well, I think they're all different. All three of those records are different scenarios, right? I think in the case of a Wild Thoughts, I think it just came out and was a smash. I don't really think that I did anything that was like magical or instrumental or I think anybody probably would have had the same outcome because the song was great from the minute it came out. It was like, boom, right? But like you take a French Montana that was out 3, 4, 5 months before it really caught its legs, right? So it becomes about diligence and not giving up and pushing and pushing and pushing and staying with it. And you're a lot of people might have given up, and I did it. And it's then at that time I didn't know French. I didn't have a relationship with him. I didn't have a relationship with his manager. So I didn't have any goodwill with him either. So me and him were learning each other, and like a year later, it was like the biggest song of the year, right? But so that
that, and my format was the only one that went number one. So no other formats went number one, whereas Wild Thoughts went number one in multiple formats, right? Like it was, equally or bigger as big, but they were different. There were different paths to get there, right? With Tyga, I mean, I picked the song, right? So I picked the song, but the same thing. I kind of feel like
You picked Taste?
right. Like so, the situation was when I met him, like maybe a couple weeks before that, he played me a bunch of songs, and I'm not really a studio guy in the sense that I don't really love to sit in the studio and listen to music for hours. Like I have ADD. You're the one that said it. I'm on my phone the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So he's playing me 4, 5, 6 songs, and there's a song that he wanted to put out first, and he thought it was kind of like a club street record. And then I was just kind of like, I see you in the clubs, and I go, what club do you really see this playing at? And he was like, well, and he's like, I don't know, and I'm like, because DJs, you guys want to play the hits. You're not entitled to play a new record at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night and break a new record. You have to play hit records. So he was like, what do you think we should do? I'm like, I think we should go with the hit. And he was like, you think so? And I'm like, yeah, people's attention spans are so short now, there's no time for a setup record. And once you lead with the strongest record, then the other doors are going to open much easier for you.
You got people's attention, and then they might they might listen to the second
one.
single and
They're
the
more
third.
willing,
Yeah.
exactly. So and at the time, people were like, he's over, and he's this and that, and then boom, the song came out, and then boom, it's on Rap Caviar, and boom, it's like streaming, and
Right.
next thing you know, it's like, and people still for the first, let's say, 2.5 months, were still like, no. We're like they were so against him as an artist, that they weren't ready to, they weren't even open minded to receive him, and then like it just became so big that like it overpowered them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was shocking to us DJs too when that song came out.
Right.
Because we were like, yo, this shit is dope, but
Yeah.
we don't think the crowd's gonna fuck with Tyga.
Because
And
we
it
even
just,
had conversations like, yo, it might be a rap for Tyga.
No,
Like, he hadn't come out
everybody
with it in
did.
years.
Everybody did. But I mean, he's a very smart guy. He's very diligent, and he had a plan, and he went and. Like I said, it was the same sort of scenario with French. Like, the same way that I'm trying to build the credibility with the radio stations or the DJs that I'm I'm soliciting to push the records on. It's the same way I got to get the artist blessing because, I might need the artist to do an interview. I might need the artist to do a podcast. But if they lack that trust or respect for me, then my ability to deliver the artist is gone.
It's like the Indian Godfather over here.
Somebody called Netflix up.
So with Unforgivable, you believed in that record, right?
Unforgettable.
Unforgettable. You believed in the record. You thought you knew it was gonna be big.
I didn't. No, not necessarily. I don't pretend to be God, right? I don't hear like I say out of 1,000 songs, maybe 2 or 3. I'm like, yo, I think this was a smash, and it ends up being a smash. Usually, I prefer to like read the tea leaves. So when something comes out, I can see the reaction, and I go to clubs. So I can see what's happening, and I can see the movement, and then like I kind of connect it. And once I see a spark, then I know how to take that spark and run it to the end zone, right? So like I wouldn't necessarily say that I heard the song the first time and I was like, oh, I got this. Like I think it was more as I was seeing it become successful, I was like, oh, this is worth pursuing, and this is worth pursuing, and like let's work harder. I think there's something here. And then there was a turning point where I was like, all right, we're going all the way.
Yeah.
I always say that Sujit doesn't want to be part of the development process of something. He wants to see the product, and he's very good at saying if the product, he's very good at analyzing the reception, the crowd's reception to the product, or the market's reception to the product, and being like, I could sell this, right? I could do this,
Make it better, blow it up.
Yeah, exactly. Because we had a similar conversation, like for example, the R.O.A.D podcast, right?
Yeah.
If I talked to him last year, I'm doing a podcast, he'd be like, I don't give a fuck.
I don't think I would have said I don't give a fuck. I would have said, I think I would have probably said like, that's great, you should do it. And then I would just, like a lot of times like people come to me and they say, let's just say D Miles, yo, I got a song, it's a hit, right? Great. Everybody, I've never heard someone say my baby's ugly, right? Everybody's going to say their baby's great, right? Like, but now let's fast forward. I'd say, okay, cool. But now let's say 3 weeks later, Neva hits me. He's like, yo, did you hear that song? And then I might be like, oh yeah, I heard him talking about it. And then now Crooked comes along and he's like, yo, now you got my attention. So now I might investigate into it, right? So now I'm like, because if two people, like, take for example, I'll flip it even more. A DJ like June.
Yeah,
I had no idea who she was.
DJ June in New York. Yeah.
Right, DJ June in New York. I had no idea who she was. Crooked's co-signing for I think at the time Reach is co-signing for.
Big Ben.
Big Ben's co-signing for. 3 or 4 DJs are like, yo, you got to get this, you got to get this. So someone that wasn't necessarily on my radar at the time became in my radar. And truthfully, I didn't go investigate it. I just took the word of guys that I believe and I trust. And if these guys are coming to me who don't normally come to me and say, hey, there's something here, then I'm going to investigate. And once I investigate, then I know what to do from there. Like, once I get the ball, I know what to do with it, right?
Yeah.
So with with this podcast, you would like. But if I told you, you would have been like, yeah, that's cool. Like, do your shit. Mm-hmm. And then
look, I encourage everyone to do everything, but like, if you told me at the beginning to spend my time on it, I'd be like, listen, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's the reality. Is I have 24 hours a day. I have to manage my time, and I can't. It's like you said, I can't invest in the process.
Right. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the podcast got on your radar and you were like kind of like, yo, you kind of got something here. I see something here. You
well,
kind
I
of
mean,
told me
it got on my radar because people were talking shit about me, and let's be clear, right? So people were listening enough that they were like, yo, did you hear such and such said this, and did you hear such and such said that? And I was like, honestly, no, but I'd see the post, and I'd look at the little Instagram stories, and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then, but like kind of like I think when it kind of got on my radar was when you guys did the on the record thing. I was like, okay, well, listen, if they're looking to do this might be. For me, it's all about being able to market something. People are looking for an angle, and they're not just looking. Hey, everybody says I'm great, right? Everybody says I've got this, I've got that.
Right.
But you know, great is relative. Somebody's got to be willing to buy it, right? So I can say I'm great, but you know, like a lot of people talk shit about DJs. They'll be like, DJ X sucks, but the guy's getting $20,000 a night. He sucks is a relevant thing. Maybe he's not master cut, but somebody's willing to pay them good, bad, or sideways for their services. So, you know, like when it comes to your guys' podcast, look, there's 15, 10, 20,000 people listening. So you've earned the respect of, okay, well, it doesn't matter. My opinion no longer matters.
Right.
The listenership's opinion has spoken.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I'm a booking agent for you guys, right? So my job is to book you. So I've got to convince the guy on the other side of the coin to book you. And it's your job to give me the tools to make my job easier. So if you line 10 of you up and you have the podcast and the guy next to you has nothing, then you've put yourself in a better position to win. So if when I'm on the phone, I'm going through and I'm talking to these people, I'm like, oh shit, well, these guys got this. And this got something that I could show them. Like when we were talking about taking it on the road or what have you, I was like, listen, we gotta put it in a certain package so somebody who's not familiar with the podcast can come back in and swallow it and understand it and be like, hey, all right, cool. Like, all right, now I understand. I see what you're doing. This is how we could do it. This is how. Okay, cool. I'll buy in.
Right. Yeah. Explain about this booking agent and a manager, like a manager and a booking agent to you, because like
so Scam is a booking agency. Like, let's be clear. So management companies would probably partake in the process.
In the development process.
Right?
They'll work with an artist, but it's also like it's got to be worth the investment and the time that they put into it. So like,
I think depending on the manager, if you want a bigger manager, he's like a younger manager might have time. Right? So like you know, as a manager, I might sit in the studio with you for 3 hours a day and try to help you with your music. As a manager, I might try to get you a feature. I might try to get you a this or that, right? As an agent, I'm just trying to book you. That's it. So I'm just trying to get you club gigs. So, you know, I'm a little, I think in my case, maybe a little morphed. Like, I think because of just my relationships, I think I have the opportunity to help people when it makes sense in other areas.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my job is just to book you. That's it, right? So all the other part, it's your job to make yourself hot. It's your job to make yourself, you know, bookable. It's your job to make yourself marketable. It's your job to put the podcast together, not mine.
Yeah. Is that one of the biggest misconceptions when DJs come up to you asking about scam artists? They really. I think the biggest misconception is very similar to a record company, that your life is going to change. And your life isn't really going to change, right? Like, you know, the average artist signs to a record label and they think, I made it. I made it.
Blow up, yeah.
I made it. But let's be clear. 50 artists sign to a record label every year. 48 of them aren't coming back the next year, right? Because the labels, they don't know which one's going to pop and which one's not going to pop. And now instead of making it, now you've put yourself on the clock. So now you've got to fight with, whereas before is you didn't have to. I always tell people that people were like, yo, what's going on with my record? And I'm like, is it as good as Jay-Z's? And they're like, oh, come on, that's Jay-Z. And I'm like, is it good as Beyonce's? And they're like, oh, that's Beyonce. I'm like, no, on a radio station, that's your competition. So if you're not ready to fight with French Montana or Tyga or Lil Wayne or whoever, why are you coming to me? Because you're at that platform now, right? Like you have to be ready to fight with Kelly Clarkson. Oh, that's well, shit. Well, that's your competition. So if you come to Scam, Little John is your competition. You may not think so, but as much as you're fighting him for the clubs, you're fighting him for my attention.
Right.
You're fighting him for everything. And if you're not ready, and the obligation isn't on me to do the heavy lifting, the obligation is on you to put yourself in a position that I want to do the heavy lifting for you.
Right. I think that's one of the things too. Like a DJ will come up to me and probably come up to you guys and be like, how do I get on Scam? And I'm like, well, where are you from? I'm from, Milwaukee. I'm like, are you popping in Milwaukee right now? I'm bubbling, like I'm trying to do this. I'm like, Sujit's not going to talk to you if you're not popping in your own city, if you haven't gotten to this level yet, he can't do nothing for you because it's not like you're going to sign on Scam and then just get a bunch of gigs out of nowhere. Like you're still got to hustle your shit.
A lot of DJs feel that way.
Yeah.
It's like
I also think that and this is going to sound like maybe the wrong attitude, but you also have to understand it's a business. So 15% of nothing is nothing. Like, so if I'm not making money, I'm not waking up and I'm not motivated for that, right? So I have to have enough. You watch Shark Tank, they'll tell you I have to have enough skin in the game. 5% is not enough. This deal's not good enough for me. If I don't have enough skin in the game, I'm not going to do it, right? So, the guys from these second, third markets, the first question I'll ask them, say, how much are you making? They'll be, $300 a night, $400 a night. So what's my best case scenario? I get you to $1,000 a night, and then now, and that's the best case scenario. Now I'm making $150 a night for my company. Yeah, maybe at the beginning of Scam when I didn't have to pay taxes and health insurance and all this licenses and all these things that I have to deal with now as a bigger company. Unfortunately, I probably had the time. I probably could have invested in you if I believed. Like, let's be clear. At the beginning, Vice and them were making $25 a night, but we were all there. We were all there together. Yeah, so we were all there together. So that wasn't like a sacrifice for me, right? I didn't have Little John then, or the Tiesto equivalent then, or whatever it is. But now my time and my situations have changed.
Yeah. So in the beginning, there was when I first moved to Vegas, there was the Froman Showman,
right?
Which was OB1, Cobra, 5, Stone Rock, Graham, and Vice, right? And at the time, I think you were representing Vice, 5, and Obi. Yeah. And then Stone and Graham had another management company.
It was a girl.
Yeah.
Ty?
I think so.
Tavia?
I think it was like Tay.
No.
Is it? I know who she is.
Yeah.
I know who it is.
Ty, Thai.
Okay, yeah.
I remember her.
Ty. So like Ty. But I remember coming through and I've never seen a DJ manager before.
Well, no, so they pitched it. It didn't get off the ground. It lasted like 2 months, right? Like they pitched it as like a fun social thing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is never going to work.
But that was like a first DJ crew with actual DJs with managers because I'd never seen a DJ with managers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you guys were the first.
Right.
And
well,
then,
no, I don't think because my history's from electronic music. So before that, there was like, I worked with Richard Humpty Vision and Bad Boy Bill, and they had agencies. So I think agencies existed.
we had Stress, Jessica in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't think there wasn't like a management company just for DJs and like a crew of them.
Well, I don't think they're
You know what I'm
management
saying?
companies. I think they're booking agencies. Like One World in San Diego had Richard and Bill and Irene, and then I remember there was other agencies out there, but they were electronic music. I think when open format came up, like at the beginning, like AM was really at the forefront, and he didn't have an agency,
Right.
And then I was representing Vice, and then I grabbed, and then quickly it was Echo, and then Obi-Wan, and then 5, and then like we kind of like at the beginning it was true story. At the beginning, you had to get the votes of everybody before you,
Right.
So like if you were DJ number 5 on Scam, you had to get 4, 3, 2, and 1 to vote you in before you could get in.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. Like
Yeah.
I guess when I like if I wanted to get Never on the squad, you would talk to like 5, you would talk to
Everybody.
Vice, you would talk to like 4 of the DJs and get the okay, and then
They never said no, but I don't think they ever really were like no to anybody. But like
Right. You
that
could
was
tell.
I did that was the process.
was there ever DJs that you were getting like he's okay and stuff like that, and you didn't accept anyone?
I mean, I passed on a lot of people, but usually, truthfully, at the beginning, the DJs were like, "This guy would be dope for our crew."
Yeah.
So like I didn't. Vice did a lot of heavy lifting at the beginning, like like he would introduce me, like he introduced me to Rockticon,
Yeah.
like because they were out more than me, so then they would know who was popping and who was good and who might be good, and they had similar tastes, and
Yeah.
so they would kind of like the DJs were the ones that were bringing me talent, but at some point, it turned the corner, and I had to think about the finances,
Yeah.
and like I remember the first DJ that kind of blew my mind was Sky Neller, because
Sky Neller was like a model. She was a model and a DJ, but she was she was doing like Fashion Week. She was doing Diddy parties.
Yeah.
So, but
she was on
at the time, there was like these event companies that were doing all the big events, and one of the big event companies that I was doing a lot of work with was like, listen, you got to work with Sky. She's killing it. And I talked to her. She's telling me she's making $5,000 a night, and I couldn't comprehend it because Vice at the time in my mind was much bigger than her, and he was making like 2. And I was looking at myself like, how is it possible that this fucking girl is fucking crushing it like that? And then I was like, but she had no credibility as a DJ
as
person.
a club DJ, right?
As a club DJ, okay,
Yeah.
or as a DJ for that matter. So I was like, but I did it because like I was like, this is confusing to me. And then truthfully, she opened up all these doors for us that we never had,
Wow,
like
man.
fashion brands and things, and she was making those numbers. So if I would have put her in front of the jury might have said no. But what I got out of that relationship was it was crazy. I learned about a whole new world. I went to Hong Kong. I'm like doing all these things I didn't even know existed, and all of a sudden, it opened my eyes up to being like, okay, well, hey, listen, like just because this group thinks this, there's this whole other world out there that you can't close your mind to.
Is there like a DJ that maybe that didn't get the unanimous co-sign that you regret not signing?
No, I don't think that ever happened.
No.
No.
So I want to go back to the beginning because we know of Vice 5 and like Obi-Wan, but early in the beginning, you were doing raves in Orange County and stuff like that in
Yeah.
the early 90s.
Yeah.
Were you still in high school doing?
Yeah.
You were promoting these raves?
Yeah.
So Neville was doing some research, and you did like your boys were doing these raves.
No, so back in the day, there was
Yeah.
party crews.
Okay.
So I grew up around in Orange County, and all my friends were predominantly Mexican. So like they called it the East Side of LA, right? The East Side. So the East Side, predominantly Mexican people. They used to have party crews, but I didn't do it because I wasn't Mexican. So even though all my friends were thinking it was really a Mexican thing, right? And I didn't feel like I was going to be like Latin pride, like showing, like that's what
You could have got away with it.
I could have got away with it, but it was like
no, he couldn't.
no, but like
Yeah,
the party,
he looks like one of my cousins, actually.
the party crews were like brown babies, and like it was all like heavy like Latin influence, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And I just remember my friends. I was watching them try to throw these back. It was as far as backyard parties to kegs with cups and all this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are so stupid. This is so easy. And they were like, if it's so easy, why don't you do it? And I was like, bet. And I threw a party at like this place called the Ice House. And it was like the place to throw the parties at in like our city. And we failed miserably. Like the party sucked. But I accomplished getting the venue and throwing the party. And the owner of the place that was my investor and that fronted all the money, he was like, listen, I lost a lot of money, but that's an obligation as an investor. Like, so you don't owe me anything, but don't ever come back here again, right? Like, I'm never doing this again. And I was like, no, hold on a second. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'll come work for you for free at your construction company till I pay off what I owe you. And so while that first event was a failure, it opened up me to enough people in the rave and community type thing. So whereas, it had given me a little bit of a name where I started doing parties. And at that time, start doing parties meant putting flyers on cars, passing out flyers, like, putting up posters on the street. Like, I was like a worker. And then, as people as the higher ups.
You were the street team.
Yeah, you were a
as a
street team.
Yeah.
So as the higher ups kind of like were like, oh, we'll give you more responsibility. Then it went to collecting money at the door. It went to this. Like it, it kind of grew and grew and grew, and I stuck with it, right? Because I was, making a little money, and it was fun. And then I graduated high school, and at the same time I was throwing my parties. So my parties were smaller, but I was getting better at it, right? Like I still wasn't good at it, but I was getting better at it. And then I graduated high school, and
So what were you? Were you like a host? What were you doing?
not a host. Host didn't. I was a promoter. Like you put flyers on cars. People exit a party.
It was your party.
No, it wasn't my party at all. Like if a party happened, they might have 10. Like they put your flyer, they put your company name on the flyer, and it'd be brought to you by, and it'd be like 20 companies, and then I'd be responsible for covering this city, and they'd be like, so I'd go to the malls and pass out flyers. I'd go to after like a rave would exit, I'd be standing there, come to my party, trying to get girls' phone numbers or
like promotions to me evolved and changed as bottle service became, because with bottle service you have to become slightly like a host because you had to bring the bottles.
Yeah, but at the
and
time,
stuff, right?
bottle service wasn't even a conversation. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
16.
No, for sure.
This is like the 90s also.
No, but
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
wasn't-
alcohol is not even a conversation. If
Yeah.
I could sneak it, but at the time I wasn't drinking. Like I wasn't 21, so it was like all I wanted to do was put these flyers on the cars, put these
Yeah.
things out, and get this going and make money, right? So then I graduate high school, right? All Indian boys must be doctors or lawyers, right? So I go to college, right? I go to UCSB thinking that I'm going to go now. Even though I got not great grades in high school, I did enough to get to college, and I went up to school and I was like pre-med, and let's be real, I didn't want it as bad as the other kids. The kids were waking up at 3 in the morning, going to class, studying till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I didn't have the bandwidth, and I looked around and there was like wide open season to start throwing parties.
Yep.
So there was like, Santa Barbara's got a great Isla Vista walk around and drink at houses, but they didn't have any clubs. Like they had like 1 or 2 21 and over clubs, and I started an 18 and over party. And at the time, electronic music was on the downswing, and hip hop was coming up. So you had a kid in me that didn't know anything about hip hop. I didn't grow up with parents that were listening to all this cool shit. Didn't happen, right? So I'm figuring out.
So you were like a rave kid in the beginning.
I was like a rave kid at the beginning,
Interesting.
and then it converted, and so then hip hop was kind of like growing. It was like emerging, like Dr. Dre, and like you couldn't listen to NWA at my house. You're crazy, bro. No chance that shit was playing in my house, right? I didn't
Yeah.
even know what NWA was, but like, so I started learning about Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and then so what would happen is at my party, I would turn the CDs over and I would look for the record companies, and then I would call the record companies and I would try to book the acts at my club.
Damn.
So then I started doing shows, Rapping Forte, Drew Down, Funk Dubious. Like I one by one started doing shows, and in Santa Barbara, I did shows with everybody as
Yeah.
a promoter.
Oh, man.
Like everybody in hip hop, Das Effects, De La Soul, Redman and Method Man. I even had Notorious B.I.G., but he no-showed. But like I had Keith Murray, like you name it, 112, like everybody.
Never was saying that you were the first, right?
The first to bring out Mobb Deep.
First,
The
I was,
County.
and they rapped about it. I was the first person to bring Mobb Deep to the West Coast.
They rapped about
Yeah,
it.
they put
What
it in the
song?
I don't know what song it was, but they were like, "Come to California and go to Santa Barbara." They did that because I
Oh,
remember
shit.
it was a big deal.
Damn.
Oh,
Damn,
wow.
man.
Because at the time, what it was like on your promo tour as an artist, you would come and you would do Jamaica House in L.A. and then you would do my club in Santa Barbara. So it was like a Tuesday, Wednesday proposition. My club was on Tuesday, and Jamaica House was on Wednesday. So if you were doing promotion to promote a new record, a new project, you would come through this run. And that's kind of how it evolved into the record business. Is once record companies realized I was doing that, then they started hiring me as street teams. They're like, shit, if you're going to be putting flyers on all these cars, you might as well be putting flyers for our music on these cars. And when you're going into those clubs, give those DJs the vinyl for our new records, and here's some CDs. So I was winning all the way across the board. The DJs were excited to see me because they got the new wax, right? The club promoters were excited to see me because they would get albums that they could give away at their clubs or T-shirts or whatever. And then I'm putting out flyers on all the cars. The record company's happy. I'm invoicing them like a retainer to just be street team promotion guy.
Wow.
Damn.
What do you attribute to your success in the beginning like that? Your diligence? What was motivating you at that time?
I think I'm just addicted to the hustle. I think if it was selling cars, it would be the same thing. I just like the transaction. I like the feel.
And then you were just hustling. You were doing street promotions, right? And you're juggling record. How did you get the contacts with record labels and all this
I'm
stuff.
telling you, I was flipping the CDs over and it would say Capitol Records, and I would
That's like the old school shit.
I would call 411 and I would call up there and I'd ask for the promotion department, and then I'd call
411.
and then they would usually tell you at the time, they would tell you to fax a proposal. And so then I had this proposal like all decked out of what I did, and I'd fax it to them. You have to do it 20, 30 times, and then finally someone might pop their head up and call you back, and then you're like, you're trying to do it. I mean, I did Mac 10's first show ever. He gets mad when I keep reminding him, and I know I paid him, and I paid him like $1,200, and I know his limo up and back was more than $1,200.
It's crazy.
Like, and I just remember, like, I remember it was his first show ever. It was up there.
Damn.
He had 4 live.
Yeah.
How was the reaction when you put out these East Coast DJs to the West Coast? The West Coast like them?
What do you mean East Coast?
East Coast
I
rappers.
mean, East Coast rappers. East Coast rappers.
Yeah, I mean, if I was bringing them out, they had songs on the radio. So I wasn't bringing out, like, I wasn't discovering new talent. Most of the stuff I was doing was on the radio. It might have been on the radio in L.A., and I might have been introducing Santa Barbara to it. But it's almost the backwards thing. In my college, I had the credibility of all the kids. Kids knew that if I was bringing someone to town, it was going to be popping. But most of those kids knew what was up. The kids that were coming to the club, they knew what was up. Whereas I probably didn't. They did.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Shade Shice song, "Where I Want to Be" with Nate Dogg.
Right. So my first partner, his name was Damian Young.
Yeah.
Like, he was a producer, and so we formed a production company. We had 4 companies. We had a production company, publishing company, a management company,
Jeez.
and an entertainment company, right? And so he found this act, and he wanted to produce them. That's how, I mean, he got Nate, and he got Corrupt, and they put it out. And, you know, "Where I Want to Be" song was a big old hit.
Yeah,
I
it was popping in New York also.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, really, it was KG from Naughty did the track, and Nate Dogg just killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Nate Dogg record it, and like, I remember he went in and he did like his parts, and then he came back and he did another pass, and then he came, like, it was like there was all these blanks in it, and then he came in and he was like, "You say," and like he put all the parts in. I was like, I couldn't even understand how he had the vision to do one pass and then come back in and put his other parts in. I was like,
Just
shit.
layering on multiple tracks all of his vocals, right?
Yeah.
And just having everything fragmented.
Well,
and
no,
putting it
it's
together,
the way
right?
he sings is like, "You see how I do the thing,"
Yeah.
and then like the way it's hard to explain, but if you know the song
Yeah.
and you listen to it,
Just
you
like the
could-
different octaves and
you could- you-
yeah.
Yeah, but then that would be on one track, and then he'd go on another track and lay the second layer of vocals, or
Correct.
fill in the words and stuff like that. Yeah,
filling the words is probably more
Yeah.
is more
Yeah.
accurate.
yeah. Or doing like what would they call that, punch-ins and shit? They would
Yeah,
just punch them
punch
in.
in.
Yeah, punch him in.
Pretty much. So then, wait. So what was you responsible for that record? You were,
I mean, I helped with the promotion, but I owned half of the song.
back then promoting a song like that through Street Team. What did that entail?
No, we were his manager too. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't that. So he was signed to MCA.
Yeah.
So at that time, I owned half of the label that put that song out.
Yeah.
So
what was the label?
It was called Baby Ree, but it was through MCA. So I think at the time I didn't know 1/100th of what I know now. So I didn't know anything about the process or anything. And I think that I always understand that whatever I think I know now, somebody 2 or 3 years older than me knows way more. Whether you believe it or not, whatever you think you know now, you don't know shit. So what I knew then, I didn't know shit. And what I know now, and probably what I know in 5 years, I probably now don't know shit, right? Like, like at the time we were more like management, let's say. So even though the song was signed to our label, I mean, we were just figuring it out, dude. I don't know. I was 26, 27, 25, 28.
So then, did you
somewhere around
just
there.
start trying to book him shows out of Cali? And
Yeah, we were booking him shows. We would go on promo tours. We would literally just figuring it out. Try to record his album, you know, in the studio a lot, like, you know, recording, trying to get him on features.
And this is after college, right?
Yeah, this is after college.
So
But
then-
at the time, I'm starting to do mix shows, Street Team. I'm like, at the time, Ja Rule's coming out. At the time, Ashanti's coming out. At the time, Murder Inc. is like emerging. You know, at the time, Ludacris is coming out, and you know, maybe like 2 or 3 years later, you know, Little John hits me up on MySpace.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So how did this all emerge where you met Vice and Five and all of these guys?
I mean, I met Vice because he was on the street team at Power 106. So the first DJ I ever managed was E-Man. And so he was at the time probably the mix show coordinator at Power 106, and my partner in all the companies was the assistant program director of Power 106. So he was like, you should manage these DJs. And then I met Vice. Vice was a little chubby kid with glasses. And he didn't know anything about partying. I was like, bro, you're boring. Take a shot. Loosen up. And then Vice, then me and Vice were going to Vegas, and there was a club called Babies.
Yeah.
And
Which was Body English in the Hard Rock,
back in the day.
Yeah.
And so Obi-Wan was like the resident there. And then Chad Palace and Dig Dug were
Chad Palace, okay.
And JB King from KOUC were kind of like the resident DJs there. And so then after Vice and I had went to Babies enough time, we were like, okay, we should get Obi-Wan in. And then after all those trips, I think I don't want to rewrite history, but I believe Obi-Wan and Five were kind of cool just because they were the two Vegas kind of guys, right?
Yeah.
So we had Dig Dug and those guys, and then like I think it kind of morphed from Obi-Wan to grabbing Five to, grabbing, I don't know, Echo somewhere in there came along, and that it just kind of grew from there. And then the step to New York was when I moved to New York for Universal. They gave me an opportunity to move to New York, and when I moved to New York, my first step was like, Vice, I got to get a New York DJ. I can't be out here alone. And he was like, you got to meet Rocktakon. I meet this guy wearing skinny jeans, smoking a cigarette with his legs crossed. I'm like, wow, where am I?
With a skateboard leaning around.
I mean, like, we're kind of the opposite, but like he was down to give it a shot, and I was down to give it a shot, and like we just, like, he was super talented. So it was like, but for the fact that he quit, he might be like one of the biggest right now.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. He was killing it.
What do you think it was, in your opinion?
I think that he had just come to a crossroads where he could no longer play Madonna at 12:30 at night, and I think that he just was having anxiety of playing, and I don't think that that's where he saw himself in 10 years, and he made a life choice to make something else. I mean, at the time, his mixtapes were the best. Like, they were great, right? Like every time he would finish a gig, I'd get the call the next day, like, this guy killed it. Like, he was doing great. His money was good. He was I was helping him with money to buy equipment to do his production because his production was really good. He was right there, but I just think he had, like, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he had an epiphany of, I don't want to be 50 doing this anymore, so I'm just going to give it up, and you got to respect that.
So as far as you working with Five and OB and then getting Vice, and then really, I mean, Scam Artist, when I think of it, the branding and marketing that you've done for that agency it doesn't compare to other agencies or any other management companies for DJs. And I want to know where that came from.
Well, so somewhere along the way, I split my company with Damien. And,
from Power 106, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Power 106 actually initially owned half of it, right? So
half of Scam?
Well, half of Baby Ree, the other entity, right? So we got into a fight. We split our company. And I tell this guy Gumby to help me with the name of my new company, and I tell him, I say, hey, listen, you might be naming the next Sony one day, so like you got to come with it. Like, and I'm not the creative type that can come up with names and like stuff like that. So he was my graphic designer, and he was also a promoter at the time, and he's still a promoter, and we worked together. So I'm like, come up with it for him. He's like, all right, cool. And then like 2 weeks later, he comes up to me at the Hollywood Athletic Club, and he's like, I got it. And I'm like, all right, what is it? And he's like, Scam Artist. And I was like, ugh. And he's like, it sounds so shady, bro. And he's like, no, it's cool. He's like Sujit Kundu, artist management. I was like, and he was like, I'm like, oh, some of the guys. He's like, I don't know what your problem is. He's like, there's Death Row, there's Murder Inc., there's Bad Boy. And I'm like, I just don't feel like a company like Pepsi's going to be like, oh yeah, let me cut a check to Scam Artist. Sounds shaky to me. So at the time, we maybe had like 7 or 8 DJs, and I asked the DJs, and I think 4 were like cool, and 4 were like kind of had the same apprehension as me. And then he goes, and then he comes back to me like a few days later, and he's like, no, he's like, look it. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, DJ Neva on the T-shirt on one side, and on the other side it says, I'm a Scam Artist. And like that concept just like clicked in my head. And so then I started doing billboards.
Right.
I was like, yo, we like, because the I'm a Scam Artist like resonated with me, and like, because it meant more to than just like a DJ company. So then I started. It's kind
of like a negative connotation with a positive thing around it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was into it. I was sold, and so that's kind of why I started like
Yeah, because that was everywhere.
everywhere.
And it was like that was. I mean, I guess a lot.
Well,
of,
I think too is like my belief at the time, and maybe still is that our listenership was 0.001% of the population. We're cool in a very small population of people that go out in the club, and I was trying to make it more mass appeal, and so I was trying to market it so somebody like a Crooked or a Neva or a whoever could go from being just this club DJ to being recognized in other markets and other cities. And there wasn't really a lot of platforms to do it at the time. There's no social media at the time, right? So there's no, we're looking at 944 magazines and things like that to help us increase our platform and to make us, and at the time a billboard was like the biggest shit in the world.
it was a big deal,
Yeah.
especially in Vegas, to be on a
be on a
billboard.
billboard,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he come up with the logo as well?
My other friend Nerve drew it.
Okay.
So he drew it on a napkin and then he gave it to me.
I mean, I don't think there's too many other agencies that have that kind of a logo presence.
Right.
And I think that thing kind of resonates through the DJ community, and now even people that aren't DJs know that logo.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That logo even looks scribbled. Like
There's a graffiti artist that did it though.
Yeah, it looks like he really did it on a napkin. That's
Yeah,
dope.
he did it. Yeah.
I always wonder where Scam Artist came. Like the name. Now I know.
There you know.
So when you were branching out, because you obviously started in Cali and LA and stuff like that, then you branched out, you went to New York, you started collecting. I mean, you linked up with dudes in Miami, Mauricio, right? He was one of the first.
Irie was the first.
Irie?
Yeah. I mean, the trip was Vice and I were playing in Miami, and we'd met Irie a few times.
Yeah.
And so we invite Irie out, or somewhere or another, we go to dinner. And, at the time, like, DJs didn't really want to pay for anything. And I just remember Irie paid for dinner. And, like, it kind of blew me away, right? And then we went to Mansion that night, and I think Vice and Irie or some combination was playing. And we had such a good time. The next day, I was like, yo, Irie, you got to be on Scam. And he was like, yo, I'm in. I want to do it. And that's kind of how that happened. And then from Irie, went to Mauricio.
And it just started spreading
Right.
and going around. And then around this time, I guess, there were other smaller or other competitive, like, DJ management or agencies starting to pop up, right? More and more and more. I remember I was part of one. We were, like, undisputed, right, with Zach Gitman and Mike Drummond.
Right.
They were in San Diego. Like, they were working with me in fashion. And I
Yeah.
got you guys signed Scooter,
Yeah.
Sid Vicious, and there was like a handful of other motherfuckers.
I mean,
That were part of it, right?
Yeah.
I think over my life, there's always been a few other agencies.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun for 2 or 3 years. And then I think you have to decide if you have the stamina to go 5, 6, 7, 8. Like,
The marathon.
Yeah.
like, do you really want to? Do you really? And you're gonna have challenges along the way. You're gonna lose people. You're gonna gain people. It's really hard to maintain a staff. And then if you really want to, if you really don't have 1 or 2 guys that's keeping the lights on, it's like you gotta keep trying to grow. And then if with growing becomes more responsibility. You have to legitimize your company more. I'm licensed. Most people aren't, right? Like, like it's a lot of different things, right?
So in the beginning with you and Vice, right? Because when AM started Deckstar, that was like a big competitor at the time, right?
We
Kind of.
actually before they started Deckstar, they wanted to do it together.
They wanted to work with you.
Yeah.
And do you, AM Vice, and
Aoki,
everybody,
everybody.
everyone together.
Because they felt like if we had everyone under one roof, we'd be under control.
Yeah. Probably. Well, why did that work out?
I mean, I think, truthfully, I don't think Vice loved the idea of, I think he was at the top at Scam, right? And I don't think, he loved the idea of that merger, right? I think the independence was cool. And I didn't, and the business end of it, LV and I couldn't get straight, right? Like LV and I couldn't get the business straight. I didn't want it, and they also wanted to get rid of the name Scam, and I didn't want to. At the time, they wanted to call it, I think it was like Disc Jockey Agency or something, and I didn't want to get rid of Scam.
Interesting. And so, like, Vice, obviously, if he was part of an agency with AM, he would have been kind of
Number two.
number two, yeah.
Right.
So, in the initial, when Vice was starting to bubble in LA, in the clubs and stuff like that, AM was really instrumental in putting him on, like, right?
Yeah.
Kind of having him, like, cover for him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were you around during those times?
For sure. 100%.
And were you not? You were probably his boy. Where were you managing him at the time?
I was his agent at the
You
time.
were?
Yeah, 100%.
So you were telling him and
Take the gigs. Let AM, like AM was skimming, like if a gig was $500, AM probably skimmed 200 or 300 of it.
and
I was
gave him
just
like
get in there.
just get in there.
Just get in there.
So how did that evolve into like?
Vice would do a good job.
Yeah.
And then the clients would ask for him back.
Mhm.
So AM gave him the outlet, but then Vice did a great job.
Yeah.
And so Vice took, like, if Vice had sucked, he might have not got the call back. But like and then he built those relationships. And then, it's the same sort of scenario. Like he opened a lot of those doors for me, but I didn't suck. Right. So since, like we kind of all helped each other. And then
you closed the deal.
Yeah.
He opened the door and you closed the deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting. So then, as you start expanding Scam Artists, and it starts getting crazier, when did you start getting agents and all of this shit?
I mean, I had people from the beginning.
Really?
Right. Yeah. So it was in my apartment for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's dope.
So it was in my apartment in Orange County.
Uh-huh.
It was me and one guy, and then when I moved to LA, it moved to LA, and I think at the time, at the peak, there's probably 3 employees in my apartment, and I realized that it was 3 people was a little too many, and then my tenure at Universal was coming to an end, so we got the office that we're in now, and at the time we moved in with probably 3 people, and I think now there might be 16.
Did you know that you wanted to expand to like what you have right now and larger or bigger? Or were you just kind of going with the flow?
I know I want to be a full service agency. I don't want to. I think a large part of the reason it was such a DJ agency at the beginning was because I worked for a record company,
Yeah.
and it would have been a conflict if I had acts, right? So like I think I cleared Scam through Universal as not a conflict, but I cleared it with DJs. So I had 2 jobs. I was an employee of Universal for 7 years while I had Scam, and so they cleared DJs, but they didn't clear me to do acts or other promotion. So I like had to like kind of keep them separate. So then when I stopped at Universal, then I was like, okay, now I'm going to be more full service, and because I have all this knowledge from working at a record label, but still it's majority a DJ agency. But I would love to one day it be rep, people that could pop artists too, like or hip hop artists or whatever.
Yeah.
At what point did you feel like you didn't? Because I remember, like you said, the DJs would have to co-sign the other DJs before they joined Scam. And I think after a certain point, you didn't check in with the DJs at all. You just kind of like
because because once the agency diversified and you had people like Sky, I think Sky went through the votes. I think she got the votes, right?
Yeah.
But I think that now you've got a New York model who's got an opinion, and then you've got the Keep It Real DJs. And I think at some point I was like, I got to do what I got to do for me and not worry about everybody else.
So then you just started. So then what were you looking for in DJs? Because like you said before, DJs would come to you and like introduce you to other DJs and stuff like that. So then
I mean, I was looking for people that were going to open doors for me and the company, right? So at the time it wasn't so cutthroat or competitive. At the time, people were helping everybody. So
Right.
a Sky might have helped Vice, right? And they might have did the party together, or like they might have opened up a door and said, Crooked's great. Right now, it's like, fuck that, every gig for myself, right? Or like that, people aren't trying to share like that. So, if you picked up like a Scribble who was in an MTV world, right? Like he's bringing in Dave Navarro. He's opening us like, what's that saying? Like all high tides raise all ships. Right, so I'm of the belief of like we're stronger as a unit, right? So like when like I remember when I put together our website, I spent a lot of money, and there was no one DJ that would have invested that money into a platform like that.
Right.
But as a collective, 10 of them were able to use it for free. It's the same scenario as like we have our studios now. I don't think any one DJ would invest to build studios like we have on Sunset and Gower, but I sucked it up and spent the money, and everybody's able to reap the benefits at what is manageable for them.
Right. Yeah, because at the time, you were like investing in like these videos too. With them
I'm always
The
yeah.
takeovers.
I mean, truthfully, Vice did a video with them too, and I saw it, and it was so
Yeah.
great. that I was like, yo, I want to try to do this too. I'm always looking for.
But that was kind of unseen at the time when you did that video. I think it was like in Miami, and it was in. It was
we did a Miami.
Music, right?
We did a Winter Music one.
And then it was Las Vegas.
Takeover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a takeover, and that was insane. And I mean, did you know what you were doing? Like, kind of like, or you were just like, yo, those videos are dope, and why don't we just do a whole video?
I mean, I tried.
Because that had never been done before. It literally, I think, created.
Truthfully, I saw Vice do one. Vice
Yeah.
did one, and I was like, this is cool. And then I met with them too, and then when I met with them too, like they came. I told them what I wanted to do, and I wanted to kind of like see. I always believed it was strength in numbers, right? Like I think that the things that we accomplished together were a lot better than the things that we could accomplish alone. And so I think that a video like that takes Irie and let's just say Vice, okay, Irie's going to show it to Miami, Vice is going to show it to LA, and they're both going to be exposed to different things, like by using each other's platform.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, I'm always trying to find ways to like grow everybody, right? So at the time I felt like, shit, if I use D Miles, if I use Crooked, if I use Jamie, if I use all of you guys together, we've got 10,000 followers. And so maybe you've got 2,000, you've got 2,000, you've got 2,000. If you just do yours, you're going to be on the same 2,000. But together you can pimp out his, you can pimp out his. You can all share and you guys can all grow together. And that's kind of what I was thinking.
So, and then at this time you were like also expanding to like electronic division, right?
I remember.
You had the EDM division.
Yeah, well, because electronic music, people don't know, I already knew everybody in electronic music because that's where I
See,
started.
I didn't even know that. Yeah.
So everybody that was in that, so as electronic music started to, I only stopped electronic music because the business went to shit, right? I didn't stop it because I lost love for it or I lost, parties started getting busted, like it wasn't the same business. So I just evolved with the times, right?
Right.
So when electronic music started to come back, I was like, well, shit, well, I might as well see if there's a division here because I already know all those people in that world.
Yeah. So then why do you think you went to shit though?
No, so what was happening was at the beginning is that a lot of those parties were map point driven, or they were underground, or they were warehouse. And so as people started to realize there was a business in it, bad parties started happening. So people would go to a party and they'd pay their $20 or $30 and they would say, Jamie's going to be there, and they'd show up and Neville's there, and they're like, I came to see Jamie. And so they would stop going to parties. And so people didn't know which parties were legitimate and credible and which parties were bullshit because they would just see the flyers and they were like, fuck this. And hip hop was emerging at the same time. So there was a shift in music and the scene kind of went to shit. It kind of got too big, too fast.
Right.
And then it had to like come back to reality.
And then during the EDM, you still have the electronic division for Scam or no?
I think somewhere along the way, I still have those DJs, but I felt like we should just call it Scam again.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
should just fall under one umbrella.
Was it just too like confusing, or what was
I
it,
mean,
the
I felt like
marketing
at
of
the
it all?
time, like they wanted to be separated.
Yeah.
But
The EDM DJs didn't want to intermingle with the open format guys, kind of.
and I don't think the EDM promoters wanted to mess with open format DJs. I think they're more of like a pure, like they're cultural and they
Yeah.
wanted to be part of their cultural.
So from a selling point, it was almost like a dessert menu and a dinner menu, and you like just handed the EDM guys the EDM
and I think
menu.
I think the EDM guys at the time wanted to feel proud of their own
division.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like this is us, this is ours,
And
some ownership.
But through that, you managed some really big DJs, right? At the time, at one point, you were managing Afrojack.
I never managed Afrojack. He hired me to tour manage him. So my company tour managed him for 6 months.
Yeah.
And you know, at the same time, we were tour managing Pitbull when he was at like kind of his peak.
So what's the difference, tour managing and
I mean, tour managing, I handle their day to day. So I handle their operations on the road. In the case of Afrojack, maybe 6 or 7 people traveling, private jet, everything from booking the jet to the hotels to advancing his shows, ground transportation. You're making sure he's collecting his money okay. But I have no say in what gigs he does or he doesn't do.
Got it.
And I have no say in his management. So I'm just kind of like the facilitator, right? So with Pitbull, a little larger scale, you're dealing with semi-trucks and you're dealing with production and tour manager and production manager and stage manager and security, and when Pitbull's on tour, you're dealing with a staff of maybe 300.
Was that educational? Or you already had a background in that kind of?
I already had a background in it. I was already I never did an arena tour on my own, so that definitely you learn as you go. But so I don't want to say that Afrojack was. I'd already been working with Pitbull, so I'd already had those jet relationships. But Pitbull was the first time I'm booking private jets, like really booking them. Yeah. Right. Like so, like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't book them for myself. So he was the first artist that I had that was like consistently flying private and like, learning about times and jets and how much they cost and everything.
That sounds like it consumes a lot of your time. To me, it consumes a lot of time.
In the case of like a Pitbull, I had 3 people in my office working on it.
Wow.
So,
what are the benefits of that to you? And does it kind of leak over and affect also the other scam artist stuff?
I think again, it opens doors. The guy's doing arenas, right? So he's doing television. He's doing halftime at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. That's all about relationships and like. Maybe when I'm meeting those people, those relationships might not translate right away, but their relationship to, again, once you open the door, I make that relationship, and 3-6 months down, 2 years down the line, they're like, oh yeah, I already know him, I dealt with him, we're good.
Yeah.
Right? So he did New Year's Eve in Times Square, like he did crazy shit, right? Like I went to India with Pitbull, he did like the IPL Cricket League ceremonies, 70 million Indians. I'm in there with my homeland, I'm like, what up?
Home.
What do you see the future in what Scam Artist is doing, and how much has the nightlife changed to you, and how much have the DJs changed to you, like the game itself?
I mean, the future for Scam, I'm very optimistic. We're growing. I've got some announcements coming. So I think the thing is that the DJ business is a little tricky now, right? Because there's a lot of DJs, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of nepotism, right? And what I mean by that is everybody's got a friend. Mm-hmm. So every manager or booker is trying to put on their cousin, their sister, their brother, right? Like, so you've got a lot of nepotism, right? And then you've also got, a group of DJs that have been doing it for a long time, right? And so what's probably norm to them is no longer norm, right? And they're sitting around as a group frustrated, right? In the sense that they believe that because they've put in X amount of years or X amount of time, they're entitled to time served, right? Yeah. And which isn't the case. So you have to think about what you would have did as a 22-year-old and what you're willing to do as a 35-year-old, right? So your willingness to do things is different, and the things that motivate you and make you happy are different. So 15 years ago, I remember a famous record exec told me that, he was like, he knew this big songwriter, and the guy was writing hit after hit after hit, because when he was 21, he wanted to fuck pussy, pay his rent, fuck pussy, fuck pussy, fuck pussy. And now he can't write hits anymore because now he's just trying to keep his daughter off the stripper pole. Like his life has changed. Right now right. He's got money, right? He's got a family. He's got a daughter. His life and his priorities and his hunger have changed. So his ability to write songs that motivate or do things, they've changed, right? So as a DJ, when you get older, what you're willing to do now, you might phone it in. You might show up to the club and leave, right? Where somebody else is going to the dinner, going to the after party, promoting, posting, doing a video recap. I don't know what the scenario is. So I think that what's kind of the norm is evolving, with Instagram and with social media and with all these things. And you've got to find a balance of the influx of 1,000 million DJs now, right? Because technology has made it so anybody could DJ, right? And so before you had to suck it up and go buy records, carry records, find the records, like there's all kinds of you couldn't just tomorrow become a DJ. You had to go find 10,000 records.
You had to put in work.
You had to put in work.
Now it's so instantaneous. You got the library.
You're in, and the mixers can get you close.
Well, what do you think of I guess what would you call them? Influencer DJs?
Yes, that's the social media.
What do you think of those social media driven DJs?
I think they're being booked to fulfill a purpose, right? The person that's booking them doesn't necessarily look. Let's be clear. At the beginning, people might have booked Sky because they also wanted her in their dress, right? They wanted her to market their dress and they wanted her to promote their thing. So I think good for those people. They're fulfilling a need for the club. And the scary thing is that you can't be mad if an influencer has 3-4 million followers. The thing about the clubs is they're very savvy. They're watching ticket counts. They're watching bottle sales. They know what they did the last year. And if they book somebody, whether it's an influencer or someone else, and it moves the needle for them, then they're trying to run their business successfully. Because if they were booking that person, they opened that door and they walked in that door and they didn't deliver for them. What you consider delivering is different to everybody, right? So they're obviously delivering for someone, or they wouldn't be being asked back.
So Raticon made a statement, I don't know, a few months ago on our show, and there's this kind of Twitter hashtag, Instagram hashtag of like real DJing, and there's all these like kind of goats and like OG DJs pushing like all you got to do is be a good DJ, all you got to do is be a good DJ, and Raticon came off and said, you know what, that's kind of bullshit. It really doesn't matter if you're a good DJ. Your story and what you're marketing is more important than that. And some good DJs have the story that they are good DJs. That is their marketing, that they are good DJs. But
my feeling is, why can't you be both? Why can't you be a good DJ?
But what's more important to you, do you think?
I don't think anything's... Look, I think at the end of the day, this is my line, right? Everyone's like, what makes a good DJ, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say a good DJ... I'll say a good DJ can do 3 things, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I'll say DJs do 3 things. You could sell tickets, you can sell bottles, or you can bring girls, right? The good DJs will do all 3, right? So if you want to be the guy who's making $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a night, then you're going to need to be justifying that to someone, right? If you want to just be a good DJ and play a cool party and play for fun for $250, go do it. But don't be mad at somebody else because, like the Chainsmokers wouldn't be being asked back to the win if whatever they were doing wasn't translating for the win, right? So,
but you do agree at some point DJs were expected to promote more because there was a certain point where DJs were expected to promote more for the club than usual, because back in the day there were just promoters who used to promote the club and they just wanted a competent DJ who could hold down the room.
I think what's happened now is that the competition is just elevated. The same as there's more DJs, there's more clubs.
Yeah.
Right. So in order to justify everyone's existence, everyone has to pitch in. Right. So I don't think that those bigger DJs are being asked as much as the smaller DJs. Right. So I think that I don't think anybody's asking Calvin Harris to do a bunch of stuff because his name and his recognition and his thing, he's sellable. He probably shows up and does his gig, maybe an Instagram post, and keeps it moving, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not Calvin Harris and your name's not translating into that and your music's not translating into that and you're Sujit and you want to charge $1,000, but Jamie's willing to do the same job for $800, you got to justify why you're worth $200 more. And that's just the reality. And if you're not going to do it and you're just going to say, I've been doing this 5 years longer, you're probably going to lose in the long run.
So what's some of the stuff that you were hearing on our podcast from other DJs that kind of upset you or that you felt that weren't accurate, some of the information?
Well, nothing upset me because...
By the way, I bleeped out your name.
No, I mean, look, you could have left it in because really, like, people are entitled to their opinion. But the only thing that I feel is like, I don't want to be misrepresented, right? So, I think that oftentimes DJs huddle up amongst themselves and they come up with a reality that's not really reality.
Yeah.
Right? And so...
Explain, though.
Like, so... The 4 of us, we keep meeting, we keep saying the same thing.
Right.
And after 10 times, we believe that that's reality. But in reality, it's not reality, right? So, I mean, I think someone referenced that they thought that, they would send gigs over to me and I would give them to someone else. That's ludicrous. Like, I don't do that. Like, there's a lot of things I'm not a liar.
Well, like, for example, let's say somebody calls you up and they're like, I want Neva.
Right.
And you're like, well, Neva's 2,000. And they're like, well, I got 1,500. And you're like, well, he can't do it. And then he's like, and then guy's like, well, that's my budget, 1,500. And you're like, well, he can't do it, but I got this dude, Jamie, and Jamie could do it
Not
for
the scenario.
1,500.
That scenario wouldn't happen. I think at that point.
Is that kind of bad practice though, in your opinion?
Well, wait. Let's rephrase.
Yeah.
Let's say they call for Little John.
Yes.
And they say they have 5,000.
Yes.
Okay, that's not in the ballpark of something he's going to consider.
Yeah.
I might offer someone else. 100% I would say, you know what, that's not for him, but is there something else that works within your budget that I have that fits? Because he's not in the ballpark.
Now, let's say it's a high-profile event, or if it's something high-profile.
Still not in the ballpark for
It's
Little
still
John.
not in the ballpark, and Little John wouldn't even want to know about it
No.
if it's not even near what they're going to pay him.
We have that relationship
Yeah.
to where I know what he's willing to take, and I know if I felt like it was something that we needed to do for a relationship
Yeah.
or for a look, then I would bring it to him.
Okay.
And we have enough mutual trust for each other that there's no, I'm not going to cut him short right now. Now let's just say it's 10,000, but they have 8, and if I think it's close enough, then I might call him and say, hey, before I say no, are you thinking the same way I'm thinking, or what are you feeling, or how do you feel? Like, what's your thought process? And he might be like, nah, let's do it, or nah, you're right. Like, whatever it is, we're in cahoots. Let's be clear. Like we know what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, you call for Crooked and Crooked's not available. Am I trying to get Neva in? 100%. 100%. I'm
But-
trying to keep the business in-house.
So do you think that could have possibly happened with
No.
one of the guys that said it?
No.
Where
well,
you
if
try to get
they're,
them.
listen, if they're not available, but you got to understand that works both ways, right? So the opposite could have happened, that other DJ couldn't have been available, and I could have been like, use him. So like that's the benefit of having an agency. I'm getting these calls, and if somebody's not available or if somebody can't do it, you might stumble into something that you might have not been able to get. But you know, the opposite happens where, you know. You know what I'm saying? You might have to give something up that you might or not.
But shouldn't you
available.
let the person know, like,
No.
that, like, yo, this came into the table, you're not available.
No.
Do you want me to rebook it for another date?
No, because I'm going to try to rebook it for another day anyways. That's my job. Like that's
But
redundant.
then shopping it to somebody else, don't you think you should check in with that person?
No, absolutely not.
You think you have the right to shop another person in?
100%.
It's like a car dealership, bro.
Well, how do y'all feel about this? Like D and Neva.
I totally agree. I understand where Sujit's coming from because
Yeah.
he want to keep the money in the family.
Yes.
So-
no, like it's not even keep the money in the family.
Or keep
I
that,
wanna
keep the connection in the family.
I want to keep the call from going somewhere else, because if the call goes somewhere else, as long as it stays here,
Yeah.
I can manage it. Right? If the call goes to another agency,
That's what I
and
mean,
they
yeah.
like, and they like that other person, now that agency's got an open door into something that I don't want them to have an open door.
Right.
If I'm not available for a gig and then I found out that you got it Crooked, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, at least I know the homie got it.
Yeah.
Versus someone that I don't even know.
But just so you know, it's not mine. It's not necessarily my decision who they go with.
Right.
So they're giving me parameters. They're saying, okay, we want D. Okay, so D Miles isn't available. They're giving me parameters. We've got $1,000 to spend. So now I'm going to look and I'm going to see who's open and who's within that ballpark, and I'm going to give them 3 or 4 or 5 options, and then I'll say, do you want a couple more options, or are you good here? Because you got to understand, not only am I trying to keep you happy, I'm trying to keep them happy. So I'm not going to send Sky Neller to do a gig that I think Crooked could do. They're in 2 different ballparks, right? Like, you got to send apples and apples. Like, you can't send something wrong, because if that wrong person goes over there and then they fuck up, now I'm in a whole load of shit. They're like, yo, why'd you send me this bullshit? And I lose
But also, you don't want to lose that client.
I don't want to lose that client.
Yeah.
But I think there are sensitivities with certain DJs though. Like what he's saying is not very different from what one of our guests actually was addressing.
No, what that guest was saying was they would call for him and then I would give him to someone else.
Because they were booked somewhere else though.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I would do that. 100%. I'll do it again. Like,
But I think what he was
put it to
yeah.
you like this. Let's just say Light calls, right?
Yeah.
And they call for you.
Yeah.
Right. First thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to try to manipulate the month so you all eat, right? So if I can keep it, so if Light wants you 3, right, and they want you on a date and you on a date and you on a date, if I could switch you 2 around, or I could switch you 2 around and make it so you guys live,
Yeah.
I'm doing it. You guys are living, right? Now, let's just say I try my best to finesse it so that happens, and then it doesn't work,
Right.
And then I have to bring in another person, right? that doesn't mean I'm still not trying to finesse him something next month or move something around. At the end of the day, we're trying to win. We're all here with the same goal, right? And so I know who needs what. I know who has a shortfall. I know who has a little excess. I know who might miss something. I know, trust me, y'all talk, and I hear everything, right? So you have to understand that I see through the eyes of 100 people. Right, so I don't see through the eyes of 2 or 3 or 4 people. I see through the eyes of 100 people. So I know more about the business and the politics probably than anybody.
Interesting. But I have a question. Let's say someone calls me up for a gig, right? And let's say, you know, Scratchy's the homie, right? I love Scratchy. But let's say there was a rivalry, even though me and Scratchy are on the same management company or agency, there's a rivalry. Like he's very good and we're almost we're both Asian.
Truth be told, I try not to have that on my roster.
Well, it can happen though, right? Sometimes. But I'm just saying, let's say there's a guy that I just know, like, I'm a little threatened by that dude. And then, like, I get a call for, someone calls me.
Yeah, but I don't know that. I don't know that scenario. If I knew that scenario, I would be conscious of it.
You would be conscious.
I would be conscious of it, but I don't know that scenario.
Okay.
If I knew that scenario, if I knew someone would be bummed out if someone else did something or they felt like a competitor. But the truth be told is when Scam was in its infancy, I tried to stay away from having competitive DJs join.
Which is why you checked in with everyone.
No, I did that consciously on my own. I did that consciously on my own. I didn't do that. I didn't check in for. I checked in for.
You didn't want to bring someone in that was gonna be like competing for the same markets, right? You want someone that has their own market individually, right?
I didn't want to be in a position where I had to choose between 2 people for the same gig. I didn't want to be in that position.
Okay.
Right? So but people think that I'm playing God. I'm not playing God. The clients they have very specific things that they're looking for, and they have very specific things that they're comfortable with.
Yeah. And
it's rare that I can sell somebody a Buick if they're looking for a Ferrari. Like it's rare. So there are. Don't get me wrong. There are scenarios where people are like, "Oh, just here. I have this budget. Send me who you want, and I'm good. As long as you trust them, I trust you." That does happen.
How do you keep track of all these DJs? Because you've been signing. I mean, the roster is crazy right now.
It evolves. It's not.
It's
not any crazier than it was or it
kind of fluctuates.
It is a little crazy.
I don't think so.
It's a lot. It's evolved a lot bigger than it was. Let's say.
I think it's pretty consistent because you'd be surprised. People fall off. I don't kick people off, but people fall off. They make a change. They try something else, and then I might add someone. But if I'm adding someone, it's because they have a business.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not going and looking for, to add 50 people just to add 50.
But there was a point, and let's be honest, like a lot of the DJs on the team were a little thrown. I think you did a merger, and like 30 DJs joined
it was like
the roster.
two mergers, right?
Yeah, it's 2 mergers and like 30. I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 DJs joined all at once, and it kind of like, I don't know, maybe some DJs felt like it oversaturated the roster a little bit. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really care because it didn't really affect me. I don't think it affected me. But there were some dudes on the roster, and they would talk to me.
Let me put it to you like this,
Yeah.
okay? AM Only was an agency, right?
Yeah.
Paradigm absorbed them, bottom out, right? Okay? Paradigm now has 80 gazillion clients, okay?
Yeah.
You didn't see the other people on Paradigm freak out because you absorbed AM Only, and AM Only has ginormous clients. Tiesto, they're huge, and they absorbed them, right? So now you hear in the business about UTA maybe buying everybody, right? So that's the business. Right, if you want to grow, you have to evolve, and that's not. I think because ours is a little smaller, it's being micromanaged. But what I'm trying to say is, it happens on all levels. Like that's Pepsi absorbs this company, and now all of a sudden they've got 27 sodas. Now they might get rid of 3 or 4 or 5 sodas along the way, but that's how they become. CAA might buy an agency.
So you're calling us sodas now?
No, I'm just calling.
It's all soda pops.
Wow.
You're a diet.
soda.
You're a diet soda.
I got the chocolate vanilla. This is the Never soda.
No, but not even not even that. I'm saying that's what happens. People merge and they absorb and then they grow and then you could have the light group merge with another group and now you've got a bigger group. That's
so you're basically saying that everything like these other DJs are feeling is kind of ridiculous. to be like.
I think you need to worry about yourself, right? And I think I think all the time you spend worrying about what other people are doing and what this and what that. If you spent it on yourself, on making yourself better, I think you'd be putting yourself in a better position. Because, the crazy thing is I will say this about my agency, whether you're a $500 DJ or a $50,000 DJ, you can get me on the phone in one ring, right? You're not chasing me, you're not looking for me, you're not trying to find me, right? You said it at the beginning. My phones are in my hands, right? So I'm still looking, even though I'm not answering. If something comes up that I feel like I need to get, I'm going to get it, right? So, I know that, there are times when agencies get bigger, you feel like that person's no longer with you or that person's not longer there. Yeah. I'm here, right? So, and sometimes I feel like the DJs feel like I might be too busy and they might not want to call me. That's on them, not on me, right? I'm here. So you can't put in your own head that I'm not available. I'm available. Now, if you're going to call me with ludicrous shit, I might be like, dude, stop fucking calling me, right? Like, I might say that. I'm not saying I won't. Hey, stop calling me with this bullshit.
You're pretty brash, though.
I'm not brash. Look, the thing is that
you're not brash.
The thing is that look, we have the same end game, right?
Yeah.
Let's just me and D Miles. We have the same end game, right? So now, if he's able to tell me something that I think is going to change the needle, I'm willing to try it, right? And if it doesn't work, I won't do it again, right? But now, if we try 10 different things and then they don't work, I might be like, bro, listen, I've given you the benefit of the doubt. Let's move on, right? Like, let's give it up. So you also have to understand.
Wait. No. So, like, if you have a DJ and you're like, hey, let's try this 10 things, and it doesn't work out for the DJ, you're just kind of like, yo, dude, we tried. Like,
no, I might tell you to try it on your own now.
Yeah.
Like, I've given you the shot. Like, but the thing is that.
Don't yell at me.
No, I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling. No, but look.
Do you see what we got to go through?
No,
you saw what just happened.
No,
right?
but look at let's be real. Let's be real. People be like, yo, I want to play Tao, right? And my argument is, yeah, I want to fuck Victoria's Secret models. We all have what's within our limitations, right? Like you have to live within your lane, and you can't say. I'd be like, I want to play Madison Square Garden. Well, good for you. Like, you got to get yourself there, right? Like, so if you're like, someone called me and they were like, yo, I got a hit record. Yo, I got beats. Yo, I'm killing it. I'm like, bro, you're not killing it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because if you were killing it, our peers would tell us you're killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't come to me every day like, yo, I'm killing it. Yo, last night I rocked it. Guess what? If you rocked it, I would wake up the next morning and I have a text. Yo, your boy is killing it. I might even have a missed call, the two of you. I might even have a video. I might even have other things. Like, I might even have somebody else in the crowd. Yo, I was at such and such last night. Your man killed it. This girl, whatever the case may be, right? Like, there's people that tell me what's going on. I don't need you to tell me how great you are, right? So if you call me like, yo, I rocked it, then I'm like, all right, cool. They're like, yo, when am I going back? I'm like, I hit the club, and they're like, yeah, it's cool. And they're like, yo, when am I going back? And I'm trying not to tell you that you were just okay because I don't want to ruin your day, right? And then you keep poking me, and then the reason we're doing this in the morning is because if you catch me in the afternoon, you'd be like, yo, when am I getting that date again? Bro, they weren't happy with you, dude. Honestly, they just thought you were okay, and like, keep it real. Like, what do you want from me? Because you keep asking me, and I'm trying to nicely tell you that you keep poking me, and I'm gonna be like, seriously.
So
bro?
you don't think you should tell them the truth, but in a more constructive way, maybe.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
You need a buffer.
I've got one of those.
You got buffer now. Okay. Because honestly,
but the truth, the truth is that you have to be able to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, and if you're not willing to accept them and improve on them, you're like, I'm telling you, the best artists, the most successful ones, they actually listen, and I'm telling you, if you see those A-list superstars working, I'm not talking like they're working 24 hours a day, they're not giving up, and the way I'm waking up at 3, they're waking up at 3. And the way they're coming up with ideas, like, you speak about a Tyga and you speak about all these guys. He's pushing the tempo. He's got the basketball, right? Like he's coming up with ideas, he's coming up with things. He's got a crew of people that he's asking for their opinion, but he's making his own decisions, right? So you got to you got to be in charge of your own destiny, right? And you got to find out what's going to make you. Now you may say that, okay, well, when it comes to styling, D-Miles is my guy. When it comes to, mixes and sound recording, Jamie's my guy, right? Like when it comes to, flyers and things, I'm going to Neva. You might have I've told you 50 times over to help me with my merch because I know that this is what I wear every day, right? Like I'm not qualified to help make cool clothes.
I mean, you move that dope shirt. It's kind of.
I wore it for you. I wore it for the podcast. I didn't want to. I wore it because keep it 100. But you know what I'm saying? Like you got to find people to help you. So somebody look at something like my merch, right? There's stuff that sometimes I make colors or things that are outside of my box. Yeah. But I show them to the other people in the office. Some people are like, "Yo, that's whack." Okay, I might throw it away. I'm not gonna go into a little fetal position and cry. Yeah. And someone might be like, "This one's dope." Okay, well, all right, cool. Well, let's give this one a run. And if it doesn't work, shit, we don't make 1,000 of them. But if it works, well, okay, well, we rerun them. But like, somebody's like, "Yo, that video sucked." I'm not gonna be like, fuck, does it suck? Like, do I need to redo it? Do I need to refix it? Do I need to make it better? Like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? So you gotta take it in stride, and you gotta know that if it's me personally, we have the same goal, right? Like seeing you not win doesn't benefit me. Right. So if I'm telling you.
But it's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling you that the managers are complaining about you, it's because I didn't wake up looking for a complaint. I'm not waking up and looking to see, how did Jamie suck today? Okay, fuck, he's wearing shorts. Fucking guy, bro. I hate this guy. Yo, why the fuck are you wearing shorts? Now, if he goes into a club and the club is like, yo, your man showed up wearing shorts, like we have, tell him next time to get it together. Like, yo, Jamie, next time you go to the club, don't wear shorts. Oh, yeah, I'm good. Bro, you're not good. They called me. They're upset. No, I'm good. I'm good with everyone there. I'm like, listen, dude. I didn't wake, like this isn't what I set my day out to be like. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was not part of it.
It's really interesting because when I first signed or when I first joined Scam Artist, it took me 2 to 3 years to really understand Sujit. And after I understood him a lot more, because he would say certain things to me, like I'd be like, yo, I just did that gig. Exactly what he explained. Yeah. I'd be like, yo, I just did that gig. Did you maybe should hit him up and follow up and follow back. I'd hit him up next week and be like, yo, did you hear anything from them? And then finally he'd be like, yo, they don't want you. They don't want you. And I'm like, well, what about that spot? But they don't want you either. You know what I'm saying? But at that time, that shit used to really...
fuck your head up, right?
It fucked my head up as a DJ because I lost confidence in myself.
Yeah, it would definitely do that, man.
It wasn't the most constructive shit. But you know what I'm saying? But it was up to me to kind of like figure it all out a little bit. And he was just the messenger, obviously. Yeah. But
it's not that. It's that you have to understand that like everyone calls me and they're like, yo, I crushed it. Right. I get that 10 times, 20 times a week. Yo, I killed it. Right. And killed it for me is when somebody really kills it, the people call the next day and they say, let's get 3 more dates on the books. They're not waiting for me to wait and hit them, and they're not waiting for me to do this. Like, they call me the next day, and they're like, yo, killed it. Or I get texts. I'm not in my house, and the thing that people have to understand is that I've traveled as a DJ. Now, I'm not personally a DJ, but I tour managed Bad Boy Bill at the beginning when he was America's greatest DJ. I was on the road with Richard Humpty Vision. So I'm not telling you to do something that I personally haven't already done or wouldn't do. Do you understand? So you have to take it in stride that, like, I might just have more experience than you, and, you know, you might tell me something about a club, but I might have seen 18 other people do that same club. And chances are I've been to that club 2 or 3 times myself. So I'm not basing this on, an office guy who's sitting in my office and who's never been on the road and who's never been. I've probably been to more clubs than 99% of the people on my roster because I get the benefit of going to stuff that they might not be invited to because, I've been to Moscow with Little John. I snuck on his trip. Yeah. Right? It wasn't my trip. They didn't book me, right? I was with I was in Cannes with Samantha Ronson. That wasn't my trip. Right, that was her trip. But so I get the benefit. But the reason I go is because I want to see. I want to know what's what, and I want to know who's who.
Yeah.
So then when I'm telling you these things, I'm telling you these things from a fact of trying to help you. I might be like, hey, listen, I've been to this club. This is the person you need to know. This is the person you need to do. This is what, if you walk through it like this, and if you listen to me, you might be beneficial. I got DJs that say, hey, what's the vibe? What's the club? What's the music like? What's this? What's that?
I was kind of wondering, now in 2019, do you think that there's more value with the radio DJ because of your relationships with labels and maybe it's like a thing?
Totally separate. I don't think one has any relationship to the other.
You don't think radio, like, remember back in the day, radio DJs, they, like, nightclubs did not want a radio DJ at all. It was the worst.
I think.
But I feel like it's changed. I feel like there's more eyes and there's more followers on a radio DJ now. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's the case.
Really?
I think they're unrelated. I think maybe back in the day you would book a radio DJ and that might fill your club. And I think the thing with that was those radio DJs were bringing a crowd that the, let's say, Hollywood scene didn't want.
Right.
But I don't think promoters are buying commercials on the radio to fill their clubs anymore. So I think that's kind of gone away.
No, I think what happens is that a lot of people are driving, they're listening to the radio DJ, and then they end up following them on Instagram. So there's a larger kind of platform to reach more people and gain more followers through social media.
I don't think that's the case.
Really?
Not enough to make a difference.
Really?
You don't think so?
No, I think.
But you can't disagree that nightclubs when they're booking DJs, they're looking at the DJ's Instagram followers.
Yeah, but I don't think any of the radio DJs have Instagram followers to make a difference.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I think it actually helps. I think it's a good thing.
I mean, it might help in your relationship with the artist. So if they're booking a certain artist, the artist might have a sense of comfort with you. But I don't think it helps in terms of like bookings. I don't think people are like, he's on the radio.
He's killing it on the radio.
No, I don't think that. That's never been the case. I think that a lot of bookings now are built on relationships, and they're built on you living in that community, right? So if there is a particular club or a promoter or what it is, if you're getting invited to their birthday parties or their girlfriend's birthday parties, or you're going to dinner with them and you live in their world, whatever that world may be, it may be, there's a fashion world, and if you live in that fashion world, you might get booked in the fashion world, and if you live in the TV or film world, you might get booked in that film and those kind of parties, right? So if you live in in Vegas and you're constantly out with, let's say, the people from Hakkasan Group, you might get booked more in that world. Or if you hang out more with the people from the Win, I think it becomes. I've never thought of DJing as a job. I've thought of it as a lifestyle, and so I feel like you have to be all the way in. And I think if you're one of those guys who shows up 5 minutes before your shift and leaves 5 minutes after, and you don't really talk to anyone, but you think you do a great job playing, your probably time is going to run out. Yeah.
Wow.
So the social element, I mean, it's always been important, but it's even more important now. You feel the relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't just think like it's a myth that I love to go out. Like, I was watching Game of Thrones last night. Like, I'd rather be home watching TV. But every year, people get older, and there's a new crop of people, and there's a new crop of promoters, and there's a new crop of everything. And if you're not constantly, staying in tune and finding out what's going on, and I do travel a lot, and it's not because I know there's DJs that wouldn't travel for I'm traveling for free. I'm getting the same commission whether I go or don't. I could stay at home, but you got to get out there. You got to meet these people. You got to because you can't get a relationship over the phone or over text. You got to meet. You meet these people. You have a drink with them. You spend a moment. You get a slice of pizza in another country. Like, whatever the case is, something happens. It's fun. Like, once you get that experience. So whoever I was with in another country, now we've got a bond.
Yeah.
And so when they come here, I'm their boy from over here. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not willing to invest,
You're their boy?
Yeah, I got like fucking
Sad, bro. It's a sad world. You're their boy here in the States. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Were you watching Game of Thrones now? You're a Judge Judy guy, right?
I haven't watched that in a while.
Really?
Yeah. It's on my New York DVR, but I've been watching it.
Yeah, you were obsessed with Judge Judy.
Netflix and the whole like the way TV's consumed now is changed my.
I mean, you're always on Facebook asking questions like, "Yo, what's a good series to watch on Netflix?"
Let's be real. Sometimes I get desperate.
Nev, did you have anything?
I have a question. Not only you represent like DJs, but you represent DJs / producers like Swiss Beats, Mustard, Lil Jon. How did that come about? Did they come to you, or you asked them? Do they want to be represented by Scam?
Most producers that are like that, they were probably DJs first,
Yeah.
right? So like even like a R.O.A.D, he was DJ R.O.A.D, and Jermaine Dupri, they were DJs first. So I think that they just found success in the producer world, and then when they had the opportunity, they wanted to come back. In the case of Lil Jon, he found me on MySpace.
Really?
So yeah. So he had already Usher, Grammys, everything, and he hit me on MySpace, and I was like, all right, this is a real business. But I think if you want to DJ in the open format world, I'm definitely going to be among the first 3 or 4 calls.
Yeah. Did he just come to you and be like, "Yo, I'm trying to get back into DJing"?
Yeah, he said, "Listen," he said, I wanted. No, he was DJing at the time. He's like,
Okay.
"Listen, I'm DJing." He's like, "Is it cool if my manager calls you so we can talk about maybe working together?" And I talked to his manager and we made the deal. I was with Scratchy in Hawaii. It was like Christmas. He was about to play New Year's, and I remember the call
Yeah.
Right before the New Year.
right before the New Year's. And his manager was like, I was like, "Oh, I'm in Hawaii." His manager was like, "Do you want me to call you later?" And I was like, "No. Like, if we're gonna get a deal done, let's get it done right now."
Yeah.
It wasn't the guy that was gonna be like, "Oh, I'm on vacation," and call me back.
Yeah.
Let's get it popping.
I'm very curious to know what is your outlook on, especially in Vegas. Like, I feel like the big nightclubs are pretty much over. Like, Chaos opened, this huge mega club. And I feel like that might be one of the last mega clubs to open up. And a lot of the younger generations going to festivals, and I feel like nightclubs really need something different to happen in Las Vegas. And what have you been noticing? Like, is the market dying a little bit? You know what I'm saying?
I would just say, if you would have asked me at Babies, then, when we did the deal at Body English and Tao, like, if you would have asked me then, I would have told you there's no possible way this DJ money is going to keep going like this. Like, Vegas is going to bust. They can't possibly keep building more casinos and more clubs, and it's going to come to an end, and let's just ride it out while we can. That would have been my decision back then, or my outlook. Now I think that it's going to continue. I've seen it go up and down. Like, Vegas had a point where, after I think 9/11, it was on its death's door, right? Like, everything was horrible there. Nobody was spending money to go there, but it survived, and I think Vegas will survive. The casinos are always full. They make money. I think that, it's like everything. It's customer acquisition. You have to give people what they want. And so, maybe that might have to evolve a little. There's a lot of service fees when you buy a bottle.
Yeah.
Like, there's a 20%, 10%. You buy a $500 bottle, it's like $900. You're like, bro, I was struggling to get to 5. How did I get to 9?
Yeah.
And then, random people are coming and drinking your booze. So I think people are probably going to want more for their dollar. Mm-hmm. And I think that because there's so many clubs and so many venues, the venues have fallen back on talent and put the responsibility on talent. And if they don't have a Rick Ross or whoever, they feel like they can't fill their nightclub. And I think that that'll probably evolve a little too. And but, it's the same thing. I think that, I've watched music go up and down, the DJ business go up and down. And, it's kind of like when it's up, there's all these fair weather friends that pop into the business and think it's fun and think it's cool, and they want to all of a sudden become a DJ.
Right.
But it's the same thing as the agency. Let's see what you're doing 4 years after. Do you have the stamina to really stay in and be in it for the long haul? And if you do and you work on your trade, you're probably going to be all right. You'll figure it out. And I'll help you. Here's my number.
Scam Artist.
For the future of Scam and what you're doing, I see you kind of diversifying the talent a little bit more. You're getting some event hosts in there, and then you're getting some DJs in there, and you're mixing it all up. Are you just trying to see what market is going to bite and how it's going to grow and evolve or expand? Or let's air it out, right? I want to compete with CAA.
I want to compete with UTA. So the same way I tell you as an artist, if you're not willing to compete with Jay-Z and Beyonce, you're in the wrong world, right? So at some point, like, I would like to compete with the best. And so, you know, it's funny. I took a little flack when I started with Amber in China, but they're making at their peak. They're making.
You're talking about Amber Rose and Black China.
Right.
Yeah.
I took a little flack, but you know what?
How did you get that?
Nick Cannon was managing Amber.
Right.
He's similar to Sky Neller. He was telling me she was making $7,500 for an appearance, and I was like, I didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
I met her. She's very nice, right? Black China, very nice. They're very nice people. They've been nothing but great and helpful to me. And, you know, they're actually supportive of the DJs. Like, if they can help one of the DJs or something, they would. So whereas the DJs kind of frowned on them, I would say that they were kind of like all in and all aboard. And, you know, when I met Black China, she was making $5,000 a night. At the end, she's on the Kardashians making $30,000 a night. So I don't judge people like that. What I know is I know that they're nice to me. They're good people. They've never done me wrong. And I know that I want to be a full service agency. So if it's a country act that walks into my office tomorrow and we think we can make it happen, I want to give it a shot, because who knows where this is going to end up in 20 years. But I know that it's like Scam is ridiculed or scrutinized for my moves. But if you were on a bigger CAA or something, it wouldn't. Rock Nation has Spanish artists. Nobody's telling them, like, what's wrong with you? They got boxers. Nobody's judging them. But it's like, oh, well, you're not them. Well, shit, I want to be them one day.
Right,
like,
right.
I want to come. I want a seat next to them. I don't want to be sitting in the seat behind them. So don't hold me to a different standard that you would hold, you know, any other major, you know, entertainment brand or company, right? Like that. I don't think that that's fair.
Is it even realistic to see an agency and think the smaller the agency, the more successful it could be in just kind of flourishing the select clientele that they're holding? And it's like, because they're giving so much more attention to that small roster that they can kind of nurture and build it up and still be successful. Is that possible?
I mean, listen, it's what you're looking for, right? Like, I don't look. I feel like that would be a legitimate argument if you said that,
like, quality over quantity. You know what I mean? Like, and I think, like, I'm just curious to know that, because I've spoken with other dudes and they're just kind of like we're being.
Hold on. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Define quality, right? And is quality enough for me to pay my bills? Right. So because you gotta think about what quality is, and this quality ability to pay my bills and support my lifestyle, support my goals. Right. So I could pick 6 people that you think are quality.
Yeah.
Might not be enough to pay my rent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I gotta, like, you know, if the 6 or 10 or 12 people were, you know, flourishing that much that it was like that I was comfortable with it, then I might not need to go to 10 or 12 or 15, right? It just depends on, but the people that are like kind of like that aren't necessarily 100% happy are the ones that aren't working. And they're not working because of me or because I have Amber Rose on my roster. They're not working because of them. You know, the ones that aren't working are the ones that are complaining, right? And they're not working because of themselves, not because of me. And it's not because of my time commitment. It's not because of my, I'm too busy. It's because they run out of their product isn't good enough. And what they need to do is they need to work on their product, and they need to work on making themselves better. Let's just take the group of you 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You could have sat at home and waited for me. Instead, you came up with this podcast. You developed it. Okay. Now you've got the podcast, right? Could have stopped there. Okay. Take it on the road. Good for you. Right? Then you take it on the road. Then you go from taking it on the road to wanting to do on the record. Right? You're creating your own opportunity. Right?
Yep.
At some point, I'm going to be a resource to you. We've already had those conversations.
Yeah.
Right? But you're putting yourself in that position to win. Okay? You're not pounding on me because I'm working with X or Y or Z, and that's frustrating you, because the same person that's worried about me and Amber Rose isn't telling you that I work with Travis Scott, isn't telling you that I work with Future. They're not complaining about that. Right. Because trust me, when they want tickets to the show, they're going to call me and be like, yo, you got me? Right? So just to keep it 100, like, you got to, like, work on yourself. Like, you can make it happen. Like there's, you know, it's funny is I have meetings with DJs all the time, and I'll fire off 10 ideas of things that I think that they could do.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell me they all suck. They're all bad ideas. And I'll say, listen, what works for Crooked isn't going to work for Neva, isn't going to work for D Miles.
Yeah.
You all have different things. I've just given you, so don't, instead of saying the 10 ideas I gave you suck,
Yeah.
so what's option 11? Sit at home and pray that I'm going to make it happen for you? Be clear, the clients make a larger share than me, 85%. You know, I know most agencies charge 20%. Ours is typically a 15% agency, right? Most of my competitors charge 20%, but at the end of the day, you're still making 80%.
Right.
So don't put the 80% of the workload on my shoulder. You know, you got to put that on your shoulder.
Interesting. No, I totally agree. Like, I've never really through all the changes that Scam Artist has gone through, and you know, all the expansions and everything, I've never really complained too much about anything, because after a while, after working with you and really understanding how you work, I've kind of realized, like, it's up to me to do what I need to do. But the thing is, it's kind of like the music industry, right? I got to go in the studio, I got to make the music, and if the music is good, you're gonna hear about it, and you're gonna then you're gonna come to me and say, I can make this bigger. So
I might say, Crooked, this isn't the one. Let's cut our losses. And let's go back and do another one instead of being a hamster on a wheel spinning this for nothing, because this isn't the one.
Right.
And you'll be like, no, it's the one. I'll be like, listen, I've looked around.
Yeah.
And you might decide you want to try at it for another month.
Yeah.
But then I might be like, still nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes, hey, a month, something might click. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's right place, right time. Like, there's no right answer.
But we just got to keep doing it.
Just got to keep doing it. Just keep doing it.
Trying new things and doing other shit.
Exactly.
Has there ever been a time, like, honestly, like, if I left, I know you'd be heartbroken and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, truth be told, anytime someone leaves, right? I kind of like, there's been times when I've been disappointed that people have left,
Yeah.
because I felt like I've done a great job.
Yeah.
And there's been other times when people have left because, you know, like, I don't kick people off, but the truth be told, you know, my attorney told me once, he was like, at the end of the year, he looks at his roster, his clients. And the ones that make him money stay, right? The ones that don't make him money
Leave.
If they don't cause him grief, right? If they don't make him money, but they don't really bother him, they stay, right? The ones that don't make him money, he thinks about how much time he has to spend not making money, right? So there's DJs that are on the lower tier of the financial earning,
Yeah.
right? That drain me, right? And when they say they want to leave, I'm like, listen, leave. I'll even might ask them, you know what, dude, if you're unhappy, you should just leave, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. And they'll be like, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? I'm like, bro, because the amount of, you're asking me to sit on the phone with you for an hour and I probably make no money. Like, you're stressing me out, bro. Just like, I'd rather just be your friend. Like, just bounce, bro. Like,
You said some real ass shit to some DJs, though.
bro, I'm just telling you, no, but no, you don't understand. In the middle of my day, people want to have a conversation for an hour about their calendar, and I'm like, bro, like, if you believe that I'm going to stop my day and I'm going to start working on your calendar for 4 hours, and you're averaging $500-700 a night, you are playing yourself. I'm not going to do it, right? You are playing yourself. Right? Can someone in my office sign? Can you do? If you're at that end of the tier, you need to hustle for yourself, and I'll help you. And maybe out of 4 gigs or 5 gigs, I might find 1 or 2 that I can slide you.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to do the bulk of the heavy lifting, and if not, bounce.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making any money here.
Told them to bounce.
I'm good. Like, we'll be good.
Just do me a favor. Stop telling some of these DJs to drive Ubers, yo.
No,
That's
I didn't
fucked
say.
up.
I've heard about
I
that.
heard
one,
about
man.
that
one too, bro. I was like, damn.
No,
Yo,
bro.
man,
No, look. Here. Let me tell you like this. I'll tell you like this. If I, as an human being, right, needed work, okay, and I wanted the flexibility of being able to take gigs where I could or where I couldn't, like, as a promoter, I was investing my own money, and oftentimes when I would get to the party, a break even would be a win for me, right? Because I would just want to break even. And then I realized after spending 500 hours and throwing a party, that a break even was my alternative. I sat down and I was like, shit, if I worked at McDonald's for those same 500 hours, at the end of the $500, I'd have money in my pocket,
Yeah.
right? So what I'm saying is that if DJing isn't working out for you, right, you may need to find some sort of part-time job to supplement it, so you're not putting the pressure on the fact of if you don't get 3 gigs a month, your lights are going to go off. That's not a suit. Like, you got to look at yourself on that, right? Like, you're talking to a guy who has 2 full-time jobs. So I'm not telling you something that I wouldn't do, but you can't, like, again, you can't sit at home and feel sorry for yourself. So, you know, it's a tough position because, you know, just because you were DJing once for $2,500 a night and that was your thing, is that now you don't want to be a waiter at a restaurant, but you got bills to pay, you got commitments to deal with, and you got to figure that out on your own. That's not. I didn't sign up for that, right? Like, I didn't sign up for that.
Yo, but you can't tell motherfuckers like, yo, man, go drive an Uber, man. Like,
It's a good job. You can do it when you want.
It's on your own terms.
It's on your own terms. You go do it when you want. You do it when you don't want. Like,
that's fucking nuts, man.
no, but I've said other things. Go get a job as a manager. Go get a job as a real estate. Go get a job. Go get a job, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, if it's not working for you, like, and this is going to be a part-time proposition, you have to, like, as your agent or whatever, I'm giving you the solid advice that, like, I'm not probably going to be able to help you that much more. So you might need to find an alternative, and what that alternative is for you or isn't, that's on you.
When Rock the Con kind of like took a break and like kind of left DJing for a little bit, and you guys were like a really dope team. Like, you guys were like killing the game for a minute. Was there a part of you that was like, damn, like?
I mean, he was great. He was crushing it. I mean,
Yeah.
no, because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm supportive of people, and I like had he left me for another agency, then I would have been bummed out because I thought I was doing everything for him.
Right.
I was providing resources, and we had a rhythm. We were doing great. Had he left me for another agency, I think that would have been a bummer. He left me for a life change, and for that, I have nothing but respect. Right, like so. And then when he did decide to come back to DJing, his first call was to me.
Yeah.
I was just at a different place in my life, and he was at a different place in his life, and he needed to do what he needs to do for him. And for that, there's no, like, when I see him, it's all love. Like I don't think that there's anything iffy or shady about that. There's been people that I've looked at their calendars and they've been winners, and then I've watched them leave me, and then they've turned into not as good or different. And them, I'm like, bro, like, really? Or like, sometimes I've been like, I feel like there's a lot of people that I've advanced money to for no interest, right? And not even made them pay it back to me in like over a fair amount of time. I've done people IRS liens.
I mean, I went through a tax, like a huge.
I wasn't saying you because I don't remember, but I dealt with people's IRS liens.
I went at some point, like maybe 10 years ago, or like I went through like a bad IRS thing, and you lent me 5 Gs. And
Exactly.
You didn't even ask. You were just like, when you need it, I'll send it tonight. I'll send it today.
Exactly.
And it was in my bank, you know, the next day, you know.
So I've done things for people. I've child support, tax liens. I don't even remember that, but good to know. I'll hold that.
That shit. Because at the time, I'm like, God, this motherfucker's such an asshole, man. Like, sometimes he's so brash. And then I was like, yo, man, I might need like do you think you could, like, you know, front me some money? Like, without a question, I got you.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, shit. He was mad cool about that.
And I sent it probably the next day or that night. I was like, yo, send it right now. I sent an email. It'll go. But that's the thing is, like, I've done for people a lot. And then when, like, in some instances where if it's not going the right way, rather than the first call be I'm leaving, the first call, you know, I'll say it, Sid Vicious, right?
Yeah.
You know, the way he left Scam is almost the perfect way to do it, right? Like, we met so many times about how to fix it and how to fix it. And I tried so hard to fix it, but I just couldn't fix it. So when he finally left, I didn't feel like he was leaving me. I felt like I had been given every opportunity to do what I could for him, and I just couldn't do for him anymore. So his decision to leave me or for us to stop working together, there was no ever like, what a dick, this guy fucked. Like, I took it, like, he was more than gracious with how he handled me. And so for that, I was very respectful of, and like, you know, if I see him, like, you know, and again, he's in a different place in his life. He's married, he's a different guy now. So like, I just feel like it's how you handle the situation.
Right. Did you, I mean, you had to, like, there was so much history with you and Vice. And when he left Scam, I mean, like, that must have like, it must have been, you know, it must have hurt you more personally. I'm really curious about that.
Well,
like,
I kind of knew it was coming like 3 or 4 years before, just because we were growing apart, right? So
personally. or business wise? I mean,
No, probably personally.
right?
I think that like, you know, where his life was heading and where my life was maintaining were different.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, like I think he was getting married, he had a kid, like we were going in different directions. Right. So we weren't as like our you know, our day-to-days weren't the same anymore. So I kind of
Your worlds weren't as aligned.
Right. So I felt like we were, so it wasn't, but, you know, when he finally told me, I was totally blindsided. It was like, I was like, bro, seriously? And I truly believe the last 2 or 3 years of his career were probably his best. And I don't think that he's maintained that level since he's left me.
The last 2-3 years with Scam.
With Scam, were probably his best years.
Yeah.
And I think that he probably, you know, I think that we should have had a different conversation before it ended there.
You wanted that Sid Vicious conversation where, like, let's work this out. Let's see what's going wrong. Let's try to remedy this before just like cutting the hand.
We never
off,
had
right?
that conversation. So I feel like for having that much tenure and having that much things, if he had some things that he was unhappy with,
It almost came out of nowhere for you then. It was like,
no, I mean, I could sense that we weren't, like, there was when we were rolling, it's kind of like what you said with Little John, right? You're saying if there was a let's say a $5,000 opportunity, like, would I need to run that by him? No, because we have such a rhythm right now.
Yeah.
We're almost moving in unison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so if the DJs that are kind of crushing it, we're moving in unison. We're in cahoots, right?
Yeah.
So there was a point maybe 3 or 4 years ago where I felt like we were no longer in cahoots. I kind of knew the end was he got a manager. Like, that was the first sign. I was like, and I wasn't included in the conversation.
Yeah.
So that was a good indicator that, you know, if we were on the same wavelength, I would have been involved in that decision,
Right.
or that decision-making process, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like, I could sense that we were heading down the wrong path, but the final blow of, like, leaving, he never came to me and said, hey, look, I'm unhappy here. Like, you got a 6-month clock. This is what I'm looking for. If we can't remedy this, I'm going to start looking somewhere else. I feel like that far into that relationship, I'm entitled to that, and I didn't get that. And I was told at, like, a bar after we took a shot. Like, it wasn't even like a real meeting.
That's fucked.
Oh,
Like
I was
a-
hanging out when he.
Yeah, he was like, yo, you around? Can we catch up? And I was like, yeah, cool. I'm over here drinking with some friends. And he came over, and then he was like, yo, I need to talk to you. We went to the bar, and he was like, yo. And I was like, I already had 2 shots. I was kind of like, fuck you, bro. Like,
Damn.
but I mean, that's my man. It's all love. Like, look, we had a great run together. I'm happy. You know, I feel like I came out of this in a solid position. And it's funny. It's like, you know, I always remember that Entourage episode, right, where the guy was like, you want to come to a big firm, so if one, you know, if your big client leaves you, you're still afloat, right? So I, you know, maybe 5 or 6 years before that, I had always wanted to build Scams, so if a Vice left, it wouldn't cripple the company,
Right.
So if, you know, heaven forbid, a big client leaves, the company still exists. I'm not having to lay people off or to make changes, like, you know, like, the company didn't miss a beat, right?
Right.
So
And a lot of other, like, DJs started to emerge, you know, like the LA Leakers started to emerge.
Right.
Just Incredible, Sour Milk.
Right.
And then even Fade, 5
Even
and
Eric
Deluxe.
Deluxe,
Yeah.
5.
Everyone started kind of coming up, you know, and
Exactly.
so, like, it kind of, like, it almost organically happened,
exactly.
you know. But, yeah. I mean, yo, Sujit, I know you know.
I'm
you
good.
got-
Listen,
yeah.
you guys got me here.
Yeah.
Fire at me. I'm good. Let's make it fire.
We actually we got to
guys
close
okay.
it up,
Okay. I
yeah.
bet.
But yo, thank you so much for coming
Thank
through,
you,
man.
Yeah. Appreciate
A lot
it.
of jewels you dropped, and big
I hope I
shout.
didn't get in trouble.
No, you didn't get in trouble yet.
You're good. I was taking notes. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
I was like, no, okay. No. Definitely.
Jay, Jamie was so quiet the whole time. I was like, yo.
No, I was like, go ahead. You talking shit. Go ahead.
He's finally actually waking up right now.
Yeah, it's been a rough morning.
fucking
That's fine.
8 a.m. podcast.
I
I'm
know,
like,
right?
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Next time we got to do one at nighttime just to see what you compare for both.
Oh, you don't want to do
Catch
nighttime
you
with him,
after
man.
work.
Yeah, nighttime. Be like,
If you get me on a good day, it might be all right.
be like, yo, we got the Game of Thrones going. You might want to come through. You better come there.
Hey, yo, Sujit, thank you for coming through, man.
I appreciate
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
You can find this video on youtube.com/R.O.A.D podcast. Please subscribe, comment, and like. Hit the notification bell. You get every video on Friday. And
Big shout to DJ City. Everything is sponsored and provided by DJ City.
Yeah,
Shout
yeah.
to you
shouts
guys.
to DJ City for the view.
Easy.